Hey guys, welcome back to the Max Spence Business Podcast. Today I have a very special guest. His name's Xavier Caffrey. Before I actually jump into a little bit of an intro about him, if you guys like, my podcast, you like the episodes that I'm putting out, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, all that sort of good stuff. But yeah, I'm really excited to get into this podcast because Xavier is, he's a former magician. He has a crazy story of actually how he got into it. It's great to have you on the show, Xavier.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you reaching out for me. I really do.
Awesome. So, I pretty much saw you from LinkedIn with one of your posts, which got a lot of feedback. Which, when I read it, I was like, this is a crazy story, and I think it should be told, to a lot more people.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, why don't we jump in for like a little bit of an intro? Where did you grow up? Where did you go to school? What got you into business, and sort of what got you into becoming a magician?
Sure. Okay. That's a tough question to answer. It's so okay. I'm gonna try to make it as simple as possible. But basically, I didn't grow up here in Canada. I was actually born and raised in Lebanon. So I immigrated to Canada when I was 14 years old. And then I went to just like a French high school here because I have a French background. And then after that, I went to York. Couldn't even finish one semester, dropped out after like I think a month, and then went to Seneca for 2 years. I graduated from a program there. I did fitness and health, and then due to some personal issues, I was forced back into York. Couldn't even finish the semester as well, and that's when I know like this isn't for me. And long story short, I can get into more details, but that's when I knew I needed to do something a little bit outside the box, and that's how I stumbled into magic actually.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's crazy. I'm the exact same. I went to Algonquin College for first semester, then decided that I wanted to sort of jump into sort of the real world of business and just sort of start doing my own thing and sort of trying to create something. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's crazy. So from what I heard from your story is that you're at a job, and it seems like just from what I've read on LinkedIn, it seems like you've held a lot of like sales or marketing or video creation sort of job titles.
Mm-hmm.
And then what was the catalyst of you actually starting to go down the road of becoming a magician?
Yeah, so the reason was it was actually right after I dropped out from York the first time. I dropped out, and because I'm from an Arab family, like I'm Lebanese, I unfortunately have the typical like Lebanese mindset, which is like you have to go to school, you have to become an engineer, a doctor, whatever. I was in astronomy for crying out loud, and because of that, when I dropped out, obviously it was against my parents' wishes. I was insanely depressed. Like that was easily the lowest moment of my entire life. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was lost, and my dad back then was in Lebanon, and he told me, "Hey man, you know what? Just come down for the summer, spend the summer here, and then get your mind off of it and shit." Right? So I go. Can I swear on this show?
Yeah. It's all good, man.
Okay, good. All right. So I go down there, and then in Lebanon, we're notorious for not having electricity like ever. So one of those days when the electricity went out, I was bored out of my mind. And in our culture, we play a lot of card games, right? So then, till this day, I can't explain it. I'll always say the story the same exact way. I say I don't know why, but all I could think of was of a magic video that I saw online. And I'm like, oh, it'd be so cool to learn a trick to show it to my cousins. So I patiently waited for the electricity to come back on. And when it did, I literally just YouTubed how to magic. I learned a trick, did it to my cousins. They freaked out. I loved the way it felt. And it was kind of like a snowball effect from there. Like I just wanted to learn more. So like in the magic community, we always use the term like I got bit by the magic bug, because I'm telling you, Max, if you ever fall down that rabbit hole, good luck coming out, because you feel like you have superpowers. You know what I mean? Like you really do. Like you can blow people's minds whenever you want. You can you can make a grown ass man feel like a little kid, and that's insane, and it's beautiful at the same time. So that's really how I started. Like literally a coincidence. It wasn't my grandpa pulling a coin behind my ear, or I watched Harry Potter. I was like, oh, I want to do magic. It wasn't like that. It was all by coincidence.
Oh, okay, okay. So yeah, so before you actually chose it as a career path, you were sort of, it was sort of more of like a hobby, and you just sort of practiced it as more like
Yes,
for like party tricks and other things like that, and just for friends and stuff. And oh, okay, okay, nice.
exactly,
And
exactly.
then
Yeah,
when did you actually start it as like a career path where you're like, okay, I'm going to dedicate 100% of my time to actually becoming a magician, and
yeah.
making money from it?
That was 2 years ago. I want to say, yeah, it's been 2 years ago I made that decision. It was because like um, I saw one like famous YouTuber magician do a lecture in Toronto, and that really inspired me. I was like, wow, like you can actually make money from this. Like there's an opportunity to make this like my life. And then because I wasn't really in tune with the educational system, and then every job I had before that I was like a minimum wage job. I would lose my mind. Like, there's no way I can work for someone. At least that's what I thought back then. So I said, you know what, screw it. I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna drop everything, and all I'm gonna focus on is trying to get magic gigs, trying to get better at magic. That was the goal.
Oh, okay, okay, awesome. And then, so how did you actually, how did you actually go about doing that? So you already had a bit of experience because you already had it as a hobby.
Yeah.
What did you do? Did you just start walking into bars and restaurants and being like, hey, I'm a magician. Like, are you looking for, can I come on like a Friday or Saturday night and do a couple of gigs for you guys? Like, how did that all sort of happen?
Yeah, man, there's so many different strategies for it. Like, so okay, one of the ways is definitely what you just mentioned. Thing is, like, I'm very, very grateful that I have like this, I guess, natural talent of just not really giving a shit, in the sense of I'll go anywhere, dude. I don't care how many people are there. I don't know what kind of people. They could be celebrities, they could be nobody. I don't care. I'm gonna go in there. I'm gonna talk to you like every other human being. Like and that's why, ironically, I'm in sales now, because if you tell me like, no, you're shit, fuck up, whatever the case is, feelings are not hurt. I promise, because I'm just gonna go to the next bar. I'm gonna do the same thing until someone says yes, right? So that was one of the ways. Another way, and this I stumbled upon it by accident, and it was because, so I practiced all the time. And when I say all the time, I'm not exaggerating. Like, I'm on the bus, I'm in the washroom, I'm falling asleep. Cards never left my hands, right? And because of that, when I would be on the subway, for example, and I was just doing card tricks, card flourishes, whatever, people would come to me. And that's when I started to think, like, that's really interesting. I literally, one of the first gigs I ever landed wasn't because I was going after it. It was because a dude saw me do tricks and was like, can you do that again? I said, of course. And I did one, ended up doing like 5 more. He said, here's my business card. I need you to come to a birthday party that I'm having next week. What's your rate? And I got a gig. So that was another way, which is like, whenever I'm out in public, I made sure that I always had cards in my hand, and I was always doing something that would catch your attention. So I would do like a really big card spring. So now you see me, you acknowledge I'm here, and then I would make a card disappear or change the color of a card, whatever the case is. And then the last way, it's literally like typical inside sales job. So I used to go to coffee shops, I would sit down, and I would create a list of companies slash potential clients that I felt confident I can reach out to, and then they would want my services. And I would just cold email. I would DM, Facebook Messenger, any way that I can get in contact. I did it because ultimately I understood this is an art form, cool, but your boy's trying to make money from it. So that's how I went about it.
Yeah, that sounds crazy because I've never really experienced or talked to anybody in my life that actually went down the magician route and sort of became, like an actual magician that made money and got paid for gigs. It's sort of like going down comedy and being a stand-up comedian or something like that, which is really, really cool. It must be like a
Yeah,
really, really exciting life to sort of, be like blowing people's minds, like every single day. But like you were
yeah,
saying,
it's
you're
crazy.
putting the time in. Like how you're probably what doing like 10 to 12 to 16 hours a day of card work.
Easily, easily.
Damn.
Easily, dude. There were moments where like literally my hands like would feel like I had carpal tunnel. Like I had to stop. I didn't want to stop. I had to stop because otherwise, like I'm like I can literally feel my health going downwards. So then that's why I actually started doing. It wasn't just doing card tricks. It was initially card tricks, but then when I started to find out, okay, my fingers are starting to hurt a lot. I need to calm down. But I needed to practice something else, and that's when I got into what we call in our community like mentalism, which is the what's the exact definition of it? This is how you know I haven't done this in a while, because I usually like I'm so quick with the definitions, but it's like the art of reading mind or something like that. Or
Oh, okay,
I
like
make you feel like I'm in your head, you
okay,
know?
like suggestion or something, or what's it? Yeah,
Kind of like that.
yeah, it's
Like it
like
would
it's
be
a
like think of the name of like your first girlfriend, and then I would write something. I'm like, what's her name? And I turn around and it's her name. Stuff like that. So
how.
then I started getting, huh?
Yeah, no, I was so yeah, because I see that stuff on YouTube and all that sort of stuff, and I see the card tricks. And how long does it take you to actually, like, let's say for a card trick, how long does it actually take you to actually learn it and memorize it and then get good at it?
Yeah, that's a really good question. A question that I got a lot. I used to get a lot, to be honest with you, man, it really depends because for you, like you're like when you see me do a card trick, to your brain processes it as a card trick and that's it. My brain processes it completely differently because I know what's happening behind the scenes. So there are tricks where they're so easy, Max. I could teach you right now, and then you're a magician tomorrow. But then there are other tricks where I'm not doing them unless I've practiced like at least 3 weeks nonstop. Because the thing with magic, what makes it unique is it's the only art form that you truly can't afford to make any mistakes. Like you really can't. But and then the irony is the only way you can practice is by putting yourself out there where you will probably make mistakes. That's why it's so nerve-wracking because I can't really practice in front of a mirror. I need you to be there. I'm performing for humans, not to a camera. Um, but yeah, it really depends. Some tricks they take a day, not even an hour, 5 minutes, and other tricks can take weeks easily.
So the really interesting thing about this, and I think it probably helped a lot for sales,
Mhm.
was like magic seems like a very, it's like, well, it is a very people person, and it also like teaches you a lot of great skills of how to communicate with others, how to like emotionally read people as well. Like from the body language, and then also with like taking rejection, which is like for the majority of young people, rejection is like a really hard thing
Yeah,
to take at, like, because like in normal society, like we don't really get that much rejection all the time,
yeah,
right? So
everything's so pampered, like even if you lose, you get a participation medal, all that. Personally, I'm not a fan of that at all, but like, yeah, I completely agree. Completely agree.
yeah, it's I agree with that as well. It's yeah, it's gonna like I think well, I'm really into Gary V. I don't know if you've heard of Gary V.
Of course, yeah.
And I like his sort of I like sort of thinking around it is like it's based on merit, and it's like how hard you work, and it's like you get rewarded if you work really hard with it. And that's like for magic, right? If you show up and you do a shit job and people are just like, what the hell is this? Then people are going to tell you it's shit. And you're going to be like, all right, okay, that was shit. Now I'm going to go back and practice more and get better at it. And then I'm going to come back and blow their minds with it.
Hmm. But
Um,
I will tell you this real quick. In the beginning, it was like that, right? When I was like a complete amateur. But then if you perform enough and you practice enough, you reach a point, and this is what I'm so grateful for magic, where because listen, I'm human, right? At the end of the day, not only am I gonna make mistakes because I can't control you and what you do, I had sometimes where people would mess me up on purpose, right? Like they would either like literally search me without asking, which is crazy. People are touching me without me giving them permission just because they want to know, right? Like, oh, is it in your pocket, whatever the case is. So sometimes I'll get busted. And this, in my opinion, is what separates a professional from like an average magician. Because at that point, you have to be so quick on your feet to find a way to save yourself. And I was bad at it in the beginning, but because I put myself out there so much, I would literally walk into any room, Max. I swear to God, the amount of confidence I had, I in my head, I'm like, no one can fuck with me. I'm gonna go in there, even if you try to mess me up, I'm gonna leave you insanely like astonished. And that's what happened. So now the thing is, even if I get a no, it's not a no. I know I can probably turn it into a yes. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
So that's the difference. There on one side is I gotta know it's cool, man. Feelings not hurt. The other level is I gotta know how are we gonna turn it into a yes though. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
think that's the next level.
Damn, yeah, that's crazy, and that really like that sort of what you're training, because it's like that's like you're training sales, like basic sales skills right
Yeah,
there, is being able to think
I
quick
had
on your
no
feet.
idea though.
Yeah.
That's the funniest thing. I had no idea. When I started getting into it, I was like, oh, I've been doing this. Like, oh, this is easy. This is really easy.
So how long did it take you to sort of get like to like a decent level of like practicing and then getting gigs and stuff where you could consistently keep getting gigs?
Like a year and a half. And the thing is, I'm forever grateful for the people I met because what really made me like make good money, at least for myself at that period of time, it was because of the connections I made. And again, I'm like a huge advocate of networking. That's why I'm posting a lot on LinkedIn now, because I'm just trying to like talk to as many people as I can. But because I would go into every single party there is, every single event, I would always bring out cards. I was slowly but surely starting to create like a network around me, and then I ended up landing, I guess, let's use that word, landing like a really solid relationship with a guy who ended up becoming my manager, who also ended up becoming like one of my best friends. Like I love this guy, and he helped me a lot. He opened up a lot of doors for me, introduced me to a lot of people that I would have never had the chance to talk to. But yeah, it took me like a year and a half.
Oh, okay, awesome. And then at that point, you said like in your LinkedIn it says that you sort of got like you got to like a fancy sort of bar sort of. Is that like sort
Yeah.
of the so what like I know the top level would probably be performing on like in theaters and like like concert stadiums and stuff like that. That would be the top level. But for like you can make probably a really decent living just by performing at high end bars or doing corporate gigs or stuff like that.
Uh,
So the guy you're speaking out there, was that the guy who owned the bar, or was he just like another guy who was just really well networked in Toronto?
Yeah, no, it was another guy who was really well networked. But the guy, funny enough, is the guy who owns the bar. I ended up getting close with him, and then I actually leveraged that relationship for where I'm at right now. So during COVID, I was constantly talking to him because even when I was working there, so I got really close to the owners because they found out about me, and they're like, "We gotta see you." And then when I started to notice they would keep on seeing me every week and bring all their friends, I'm like, okay, they definitely like me. But in my head, at that time, I was starting to think like magic can't be my life. I need to do other things. I'm into business. I'm into sales. I'm into marketing. And then that's when I started shaking hands with the owners. And then we took each other's contact information, and then I developed that relationship on the side. Um,
Oh, okay.
and then that, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. Awesome. So, yeah, that's absolutely a crazy story to hear, man. That sounds so cool. So I wanted to ask you there because you sort of made the transition back to sort of sales and marketing.
Hmm.
Is like because the majority of magician gigs are probably more at night, right? They're probably more night based.
Correct.
Is it very sustainable to do, or is it very taxing on your body? Like you were saying, you're consistently practicing card tricks. You're up probably for insane amount of hours practicing and then going and doing shows back to back to back. Is it really taxing on your body?
It really isn't, because for me, I was just having fun, man. I wasn't working. People tell me, "What do you do for a living?" I'm like, "I'm just living." Back then, I'm literally just going out there and having fun. So obviously, like sometimes, so there's some nights where I would be back home at 3 a.m. Yeah, I'm yawning. I'm tired. I want to go to sleep. But it wasn't a feeling where like I had back in the day when I was working a horrible job like at Foot Locker, and I had to be the last guy at the store, and then I had to take out the garbage. Yeah, that job was horrible. But then this one, because I'm having fun, I'm doing what I loved. I didn't think about it like that. Not for a single second did I think I'm working too hard, because I wasn't working. I was actually having fun, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what like that's a huge relation with entrepreneurs, because I've had quite a few entrepreneurs on the show, and
Mhm.
the reason like people are like, like I get asked sometimes by friends and stuff, they're like, how are these people be able to put in like 70, 80, 90, 100-hour weeks? And I ask that question to like entrepreneurs and stuff, and they always say it's like, well, they love what they do. Like they're always really excited to wake up in the morning. Maybe not every morning, because there's some stuff with entrepreneurship.
Of course.
Running a business, you got to deal with some crap sometimes.
Mhm.
But they are just always excited just to go, like their weekends. It's like they're working on their business. It's not like it doesn't feel like they're working, like you said. It was just like they're just living life and loving it and stuff, which is amazing.
Exactly.
So
Exactly. Like, go ahead, go ahead.
no, no, no. What were you gonna say there?
I was gonna say real quick. There's a guy I'm absolutely obsessed with. His name's maybe you know him, Naval Ravikant. Have
I
you heard of
think
that
I've heard
name?
his name. Is he an angel investor?
He is. Yeah, he's also the founder of what's that company called? Angel.io. Like whatever. Amazing dude. But today I was listening to him and he was talking about that. He was saying if you do what you love, you'll have no competition, because they're going to try to outwork you when you're not even working. Like you put in, like you said, 16 hours a day, but I'm not working. It's just what I'm literally having a good time. If you're going to come in here trying to do what I'm doing, but you treat it as work, you will always lose. And that's like when I was a magician, I would argue I was one of the people that were the busiest because I'm like, yo, that's my life. Like, there's no weekends. It's Monday to Sunday every day. So yeah.
Damn. Yeah. That's crazy. So I want to sort of talk now about then then getting into, sales and marketing. Which one do you like more? Do you like marketing, or do you more like person to person sales and stuff?
And that's tough. I'm one of those people that truly believe that both are like so intertwined that it's hard to pick one from the other. Like you can't have a successful sales team without really having a successful marketing team. Like in my opinion, I think they need to be in communication. Obviously, I love sales because of the human to human interaction, and I love it because of the competitive aspect of it. But then the marketing, I like it because even though you can apply creativity to sales, and I think not a lot of people do it, but marketing, it's more direct. Like when you create an ad, when you create like the actual visuals to it, and all of that. So it's hard, man. I think I'm still 24 years old. I would like to get into more involved in the industries. So I could probably give you like a better answer down the line. But right now, I'm still like in the exploration stage, I suppose.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. And I'm in that exact same position, man. It's like there's so much to life, and it's like you don't really at a young age you don't really want to commit to something just 100% because you never know. Like, probably like if you asked yourself 4 years ago, it's like would I be performing magic at like
What
a
a
fancy
podcast
bar,
now.
and and selling out a show and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
I actually want to, before we actually jump to the next segment about the sales and marketing and that sort of stuff. How did you actually sell out your first show, and how were you actually to maybe give advice to, let's say, a magician or a comedian, or an artist or something, because they're sort of the same, right? It's like very very people oriented business, and it's like for it's crowd work and stuff. So how did you get good to then sell out a show, and then continue to do that?
I'm gonna tell you honestly, it's just about like putting yourself out there. Because the thing is, before I even talked about selling a show, I was making videos all the time online. I was always talking about magic, like in detail, in boring details. Like I would describe how my spectator feels, how they look, why I want them to feel the like. Like I treat it like a science. So it was so easy for people to be like, this dude is not joking. Like this is his livelihood, and I wanted you to feel that way. Nothing I did came off by accident. I wanted to create that like almost like loyalty feeling between me and my followers. So then when I do have a show, if someone were to invite them to it or they just see it, it's like almost a no-brainer. I want to go support this guy. And I would be lying to you if I told you that it didn't help that it was my first show. If you're an artist, when you do the first show or first event of whatever, it is going to be easy to sell. It just is because it's your first time. And people nowadays, as much as we like to think people are like bad people, they're horrible, blah blah, that's not the truth. If you're a good person, you probably have good people around you. And my friends wanted to come out and support me. And at that point, I was like I mentioned, I had a manager at that point, and he had a really good network. And he is the nicest person you'll ever meet. So then when he was telling his friends about it, they all came through as well. We oversold the show. We had people standing outside to watch the show. We didn't even sell out. We
Wow.
oversold it. So my tip to everyone out there is also, I guess with everything I said, the conclusion is don't rush it. Like I could have easily planned my own show 6 months before, but I wasn't ready. Like I knew I wasn't ready, and I would go out and ask people, like, "Do you think I'm ready for a show?" And if everyone tells you yes, they're probably lying to you. That's actually another tip, because people are also they can be too nice, right? Like, oh, like you're killing it. You're either hilarious or like you're good at magic, but you have to come back and you look at yourself because you really know your craft. Like, am I really ready for this? And even though I sold out the show and everything, till this day I hate that I did that show because I feel like I should have waited even longer. That's the crazy part. I really feel like I should have waited longer.
Oh, okay, yeah. How did that feel when you actually, like, when you sold out that show and you performed it?
Okay, so this guy, I don't want to come off as that guy, but I shit you not, like people can vouch for me when I say this. I wasn't, I was in a state where that wasn't enough for me. I was hungry. So at the end of the night, I went out for dinner with my close friends, and they're all hyping me up, and they're like, "What's wrong? Like you're not smiling." I'm like, because in my head, I'm like, the job is not done. Like there's so much more. I like now. As soon as I finish, I'm like, okay, I have back at that show. If I'm not mistaken, I performed 11 routines, right? 11 different magic tricks, and the bigger plan was to use 4 of them on America's Got Talent because I wanted to go on America's Got Talent. So now I'm like, I'm not trying to celebrate. I'm trying to focus on the next thing. And that's when I really knew like this entrepreneurship business thing is inside of me is what after that experience because I thought I was gonna be happy and like almost sit back and grab a drink or whatever. It was the complete opposite. I literally went back home and then I just opened up my notebook and I started writing ideas down. So that was a huge indicator for me. Like, okay, I'm on the right path. Like, I'm doing what I should be doing.
That's awesome. Yeah. And that's very true. You get like um, it's this interesting balance with it. I sort of find it's like not enjoying it too much because you got to keep concentrating and focus, but not just over focusing and never taking the time to actually enjoy the small moments of like your life and stuff. So I like everything. It's doing that balancing act. But I love that after the show, you're like, all right, like I want to do more. Like this is not like the peak. It's like I want to create the next peak, and you just keep creating the next peak, which is amazing. So at that point, you're like that sort of sparked the maybe like the entrepreneurship bug, being like, hey, maybe I want to go and do something in sales later on down the road or marketing or something like that. So what I know from COVID, it probably put a wrench in pretty much all your probably magic plans because like you're not able to perform. So are your plans to sort of like go back to magic, or are you wanting to be like, oh, actually, no, I'm really into sales and marketing now and I want to like get really good at that?
Yeah. So here's the thing. I think I think you should never say never. That's fine. But two, I'm also a big believer of just not forcing anything. So right now, like, I don't want to come off as rude, but I'm not even thinking about that because I feel like there's no point to think about it. Like, I'm so grateful that during a horrible time in humanity, where one of the major headlines is everyone's losing their jobs, everyone has no job, everyone's broke, everyone is on what's it called, CERB, all that. I have a job, a good job, and with an amazing company. So it's like I don't even want to bother thinking about that. I really don't, and it doesn't even make sense. So down the line, you know what I mean? If someone comes back to me from my network, is like, hey, like, when obviously things open up, like, you want to come do a show, whatever. I'll cross that. What's it saying? Like, I'll cross that bridge when I get there.
Yeah.
That's how I think about it. Right now, though, definitely, like, why would I do it? Like the only reason why I enjoyed magic is because there was another human in front of me. There's a lot of magicians out there right now, killing it, doing shows on Zoom, and like good for them. That's not for me though, because if I were to do that, I'm forcing it now. It's not natural, and I don't want to force anything. That's why I stepped away from it because I'm like, if I can't do it to people, man, this defeats the purpose. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it.
Yeah. I agree with you with that. And I sort of like that outlook is just being very, very like gratitude and grateful that for what you have and not being upset for being like, oh, well, like, cause like life happens and you can't control everything. Right. It's like even if you wanted to do magic right now. And like you were saying, it's you really like that person to person interaction. So which would be really hard to do right now. So I sort of want to jump now to getting into, so yeah, like you weren't able to do magic and then you got your job at the current company you're at. So what do you really like about sales and marketing?
So, like I mentioned, sales, I just love the competitiveness to it. I'm a super, super competitive guy. Like, it can be bad sometimes, to be honest with you. But again, I'm not going to force anything. This is who I am. So, I'm just going to embrace it, right? Because I'm competitive, you automatically think of sales. You know what I mean? Automatically think of sales. So, that's one. With marketing, I like it because I get to obviously explore my creativity when it comes to like creating and all of that. But on the other side, because I'm convinced I have like this entrepreneurship mindset and like heart in me, I know these two skills are going to be so useful for me in the future. So to put it into perspective, and if you ever like, if we continue to talk, and I'm sure we will after this interview and so on, you'll see me quote this guy a lot, Naval. He actually mentions this. He says, if you want to become really successful in life, there's two skill sets you have to master, or at least one of them, either creating or selling. And in some circumstances, some people have both, like Elon Musk, for example, right? So that's why I'm like, okay, I'm 24 years old. It's too late for me to be an engineer. It really is. But selling, on the other hand, it's not too late for me. So that's why I like it, because I think if you can sell, if you have that skill set, you can apply it to so many different things, so many different things. And I know people in my network right now who work in really high positions in the sales industry, and they literally go from selling software, for example, to now, I don't know, selling something completely different. But because they have that base knowledge, it opens up a lot of doors for them. And especially me coming from a background where I didn't grow up with I grew up with almost no money, actually. I'm naturally I'm naturally attracted to things like that, where I'm like, oh, I can make money and it can open up doors for me, so it's flexible. I'm all in. I'm interested in that.
Yeah, yeah, and I find that awesome. Yeah, it's sales is a really really interesting job role, because it's like when you go through school, it's never really talked about that much. Like if you go through high school,
Mm-hmm.
stuff like there's not many like sales sort of, there's not like a class in sales or selling or something like that.
Exactly.
Which I think is hugely, which I think they should put in, because it's like one of the job roles where you can make the most income for yourself, and live a pretty amazing lifestyle and life, and help people a lot.
And the irony is, companies in general, they usually spend the most amount of money on salespeople. Like how are you supposed to, especially public companies, but public companies almost like main purpose is to increase their stock, right? In order for that to happen, they need to increase their sales. So it's crazy to me that that's never discussed. But that's why sales is tough, right? Because the only way you can learn it is by actually doing it. Like, it's like if you want to learn how to swim, you throw your kid in the water. It kind of feels like that. Like, all right, figure it out, talk to people, read book, whatever the case is. So yeah.
Yeah, so I want to sort of talk to you about that now, because you have a lot of experience with magician, and that sort of there's a lot of core skills with like in magic that transfer to sales. So what were some of the base things that you sort of realized that you're like, hey, I got to get really good at, and I really got to get it and understand it? Was it like, being very confident in yourself, making sure you're using the right language and words, and explaining yourself, listening? What sort of things did you have to like really really practice, or was it just natural that you started just rolling with it?
Mm. No, I mean, some things are natural, but other things I definitely had to learn. I'm still learning. So there's some examples where, for example, these are really detailed, but I think the devil's in the detail. But if I were to send a LinkedIn email, there's an art to it. Like your subject line, I need to get your attention in like 3 seconds, not even, maybe 2 seconds. So that, for example, I don't really know how to do that because I'm from, in magic, it's in person, right? This one's a little bit different. Obviously, there's different ways to talk to people when you do sales. There's over the phone, email, LinkedIn, all that jazz. But that's what I'm saying. Like, there are a lot of small details that I'm learning, but it's fascinating to me because I constantly think this can be applied in so many different ways in the future. Like LinkedIn is here to stay. Emails, they're here to stay. Cold calling, it's definitely here to stay. So all of those things, I'm learning the details of it, and I'm getting accustomed to them. And I'm very fortunate because of the network I built because of magic. That's the joke of it all. I know people who are in sales, have been in it for so long. They're helping me by making me or allowing me to work smarter, not harder. So they're saving me a lot of time because they're like, hey, learn from our mistakes and our experience. You should do this instead of that because X, Y, and Z. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay, okay. And I want to sort of ask you a question here. So, what has been the biggest sort of ROI of your time, sort of for selling and stuff? Has it been like, spending time LinkedIn messaging people, emailing people, cold calling people, leveraging your already relationships that you already have existed? Like what's sort of been the best from like a selling standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, I'm doing a bit of everything. I'm definitely trying to leverage the relationships I already have because they're already warm connections. I'm not like I would be a fool not to reach out to those people, so I'm doing that. But I also don't want to rely on it too much. So I'm doing a lot of LinkedIn prospecting. So like and I'm doing a lot of LinkedIn posts because again, I'm trying to grow my network as much as possible. And then the way that I want to do it isn't to just blindly sell connection requests. I want to create value. I want people to actually want to connect with me because I have a story to tell, or I have something of value to share with you. Or we just, like my service will work really well with your company. So definitely I would say if I had to pick the one I'm spending most of my time on is on LinkedIn for sure. For sure.
Oh, okay. Okay. Awesome. Awesome. And now I want to sort of ask you, so how do you go about creating really great relationships with people and what in your sort of business life?
It can all be summed up by just listening. People, and you can see about it. So when you talk to someone, when you look at them in the eye as you're talking, you can see if they're listening to you or they're waiting for you to finish so they can talk. And a lot of people talk about that, but it's very true. So what I like to do all the time when I'm talking to you, when I'm asking a question, I'm genuinely interested. Rarely will I ever talk to someone that I just don't care about because I'm doing you a disservice and I'm doing myself a disservice. Like, I'm sorry, man, but we don't have anything in common, or I'm just not in the mood, whatever the case is, I don't do it. So the reason why I feel like every person that I've gone close with that were complete strangers, because I'm asking them a question and I'm listening to them. I'm interacting with them. I'm not just coming in and come off as salesy, because at the end of the day, if you strip it down to its bare bones, every conversation you have with anyone is because you're trying to get something out of it. I dare anyone to prove me wrong. It could be even something as simple as you wanting to help someone out by talking to them, right? At the end of the day, that's gonna make you feel better. You're doing it because you want to have extra karma points, whether you're conscious of it or not. So everything is selfish. It comes off salesy, but you shouldn't make it come off salesy. You should genuinely care and listen to what the other person is saying, and then people will naturally want to talk to you back and forth.
Oh, okay. Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. Those are some pretty awesome points. Is yeah, listening and but really, really, really listening. And I hear that a lot from a lot of salespeople. Is really just like 80% or 70% of your time should be spent just listening to understanding what they want, and then you're able to execute on then you'll realize okay, is this like the product I have, is it actually going to fit them and help them and make their life a lot easier, or is it not worth their time and I should move on to the next prospect and stuff?
Yeah, if anyone's going to be listening to this is into sales, there's a book or like a PDF you can find online, the Sandler Rules. Every salesperson swears by it, and he talks about that. He always says when you're having a conversation, you should be asking all the questions to the point where you almost sound dumb, but make them talk, get information so you can engage with them. Because if they're not talking to you, what's gonna happen then? Hey, the weather is nice. That's not gonna work. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
I was in real estate for a bit, and I did door to door before COVID and stuff. And door to door is a really good sales training sort of. We're just
yes,
training.
sir.
Yeah, and I
It is.
remember the first time I did it, the first door I went and knocked on, I got nervous, and I was just I went up to the door, knocked on the door, got really nervous, and I was just like, "Hey, do you want to sell your home?" Which
Did not
literally,
work. Probably said, "Get the fuck out of here."
yeah,
This is
literally,
private property.
literally
Yeah.
dropped my pants right at the door. It was funny. I walked away, and it's when you're walking away after you mess up badly on something, you're just biting your cheek or something. You're like, that was so embarrassing. But it's you just keep doing it, and it's probably from what the majority of magicians and sales and stuff like that you've experienced is it's just consistency of practice, 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 practice.
It is.
Which I'm really interested to ask you about is so for magicians, they seem like the personality type is that they get really, really focused on just practicing that one skill over and over and over and over and over and over and over until it becomes great. And has that sort of helped you a lot for sales, with practicing? And are you finding that you're doing the same thing as practicing, 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 practicing?
Yeah, because so in sales, you're gonna get way more no's than yeses, right? That's just a given fact. So I guess that same mentality applies, because you're just gonna keep doing it until you get it right. Like with magic, for example, if there's one card move that I really wanted to learn and I found out that's really hard to get down, I wouldn't necessarily get discouraged. I'm like, no, let me actually keep doing it because eventually I'm gonna get it down. And especially when you think of the other moves that you learn, and you're like, wow, I can do it with ease now. But it was so hard when I first did it. It motivates you. You're like, no, I can do this. It's just about consistency. Some moves require to be done 1,000 times. Other moves require to be done 10,000 times. And the same logic applies here. So for LinkedIn, for example, maybe I need to send hypothetically like 100 messages before I get one yes. For cold calling, probably more, maybe 1,000 calls. Like, as long as you know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, you'll be fine. But you just need to be cautious. You need to be aware of that. But also, like, don't fall under, like, Albert Einstein's thing. What does he say? Like, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So there's like there's a line between the two. It's a blurry line, but you just gotta squint your eyes and try to see it. But yeah.
I like that a lot, and that just comes like it just comes with experience, right? It's like at the beginning you're just trying to figure it out, and like there's a lot of things you don't even know that exist in sales, and you don't even know, and it comes down like, and the weird thing with sales is like it's like the most primal thing, right? Because it like comes, it's not like technical, or you can't like, it's just like literally from feel. It's from feeling and conversation and thinking on your feet and sort of understanding, and it's just like it's really weird. It's different from any other job role, right? Because it's a lot more of like really being like one-on-one selling is like really, it's like you're really in it. So I want to sort of ask you now is what made you go into the tech field instead of another industry?
To be completely honest, because of money. I'm not even gonna try to lie to you. So I'm not gonna say that any names, because I just didn't tell them that I'm gonna be doing this. I feel bad just putting the names out there. But one of the people that I'm close with worked at a really big company that sold software, and he was one of the people I spoke with him during quarantine. And I told him, "This is my situation. What do you think I should do?" And so on. And he told me, "Listen, if you could somehow finesse and land a job where you're doing sales at a software company, that would be the best thing that could happen to you." But he told me that it would be really hard because I had no experience selling software. That's why I'm so grateful that I have this job. But yeah, when he told me that like you make the most amount of money there, I said, you know what? That's what I'm probably going to be going towards, especially because we live in an age where a lot of jobs are being like replaced because of AI, smart tech, whatever the case is. So I don't want to be selling something that a machine could sell at one point. I want it to be in an industry where it's competitive, and I knew money will be flowing in it in the long term, and especially during COVID. Because at COVID, what are the companies that won the most during this time? Tech companies. You know what I mean? And a lot of them are software based. So it just made sense. Like economically speaking, it made sense.
Yeah, that is very true. Yeah, it's tech isn't going anywhere, and like it's the one industry that's always going to be adapting and changing. You're always going to have something new to, a new product that people need, and there's always going to be a need for salespeople for it. So yeah, we're coming to the end here. But what other advice would you give to, like, let's say somebody that's wanting to maybe get into the sales industry or something like that, or become a magician?
Oh man. I think we covered this a lot, but at the end of the day, really, this is what it's all about, is having the ability to get a no and be okay with it. And it's real hard. Like at the end of the day, I'm not a robot. I got feelings too. I've cried a couple of times in my life, but at the same time, you just gotta have a thick skin. And unfortunately, this is my opinion, but I think we live in a society where thick skin is so hard to find because everyone is so pampered and everything it's okay, it's fine. There's an excuse for everything. So you have to get out of that, and you almost have to punish yourself. Like you have to be like, no, I messed up because of X, so I'm gonna do Y. You have to be accountable. So you have to be accountable, and you have to know how to take a no for an answer and be okay with it. I think those two things definitely apply for these two roles, but like in theory, it's almost like a life advice. You know what I mean? Like just be able to take a no and then move on and try something else. Life is too short to dwell on a couple of no's. It really is. It's not worth it, man. There are going to be people out there that are going to want your services. That are going to want whatever it is that you have to offer. You just have to look. That's it.
Yeah, I like that a lot, and that's one thing that I think a lot more people could use, is just being able to accept rejection. And like really putting yourself out there gives you the best chance of making the most, like if you want money, putting yourself out there, I really believe, because I've spoken to a lot of entrepreneurs, and the entrepreneurs have no problem, like the thoroughbred entrepreneurs have no problem putting themselves out there with a new idea. Like I had
Mm,
a gentleman on my show, Bruce Linton. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He was he was co-founder, and then he was the CEO of Canopy Growth, Tweed, Canopy Growth, all that sort of stuff. And he
mm,
was telling me when he first started that company, I think it was in 2013 or 2012, and he was trying to raise capital for it. He was getting no after no after no after no after no. Nobody wanted to put money, invest money into the weed industry in 2012, 2013. Like they didn't know what was going to happen. They didn't know if it was going to get legalized or anything like that. But he kept being persistent. He kept putting himself out there, and he didn't really care, about getting no's. That led him to, creating a company which has I think at like its sort of peak was at a $15 billion market capitalization, which is
mhm,
absolutely crazy to take a company
mhm.
from like an idea, with a few people, and then bring that to market, and then bring that to an IPO, and then, just create a huge company with it, which is absolutely incredible. But it all started
That's
from like,
amazing.
it all started from, like you said, pretty much is just putting yourself out there and being okay with rejection.
And that's the so especially if you're an entrepreneur or even in sales, it really only takes one yes. Like again, I told you I'm gonna do this, but Naval, bro, I'm obsessed with this guy. Like his thinking is just gives me goosebumps when I listen to him. But he says if you look at almost every single entrepreneur, they failed a lot and then they got one yes and that was it. Because all it takes is one good idea. That really is the case. And even if our people are telling you no, it's all about perspective, right? So you could look at it like, oh, my product is horrible. They're saying no. Or you can look at it, damn, I'm so ahead of the competition. They don't even know that this is going to be a good thing in a couple of years. So it's really, at the end of the day, it's internal. If you know what you're doing provides value, it's a good product, good service, whatever the case is, then no should not matter to you at all. You should think like, oh, damn, it's their loss. I can't believe they said no. Let me go and get another guy. It's all about perspective. It really is.
Yeah, that's absolutely awesome. Yeah, I agree with you 100% on that. And I think that's a great place to sort of wrap up this podcast.
Mhm.
Yeah, so where can actually people find out more about you on LinkedIn? Do you have any other sources that people can reach out to you? The company, anything you want to plug?
Yeah, I definitely want to plug the company because if you're a potential client, let's have a chat. The company is called Vertimove. Look us up. If you look me up on my LinkedIn, Xavier Caffrey, you'll see Vertimove. Click on it. Let's have a chat. Let's schedule a quick meeting. But other than LinkedIn, I'm starting to get more active on Instagram. That's more like where I share my art stuff over there. So if you guys want to check me out on Instagram, it's the same name, Xavier Caffrey.
Okay, okay, awesome. So for the company, what are the products that you sell?
I'm sorry?
So for the company, what are the products that you sell?
Oh, we don't sell any products, so it's software. So we're
Oh,
just selling a service. So we're migration-based software. So we move old legacy Windows Server and Linux apps to modern operating systems and servers.
oh, okay, okay, awesome. Yeah, I just wanted to put that in there just in case somebody didn't like, like a potential client, somebody could be listening to this and be like, oh yeah, well, I don't really know what he does, and then it's like, okay, yeah, so
That's
you
true.
you do that. All right, awesome, awesome. Well, yeah,
Mhm.
thank you guys for listening in. If you made it this far, thank you, thank you, thank you. And subscribe, leave a comment. It really, really helps out the channel, and it helps, for me to be able to interview awesome people like Xavier and hear their stories and bring it sort of to the public. But yeah, thank you again, Xavier, for coming on the show.
Man, thank you for reaching out, and I really enjoyed this conversation.